You know, if we're not asking, okay, we got to be asking out how to create opportunities for us to help our brothers and our sisters to be saved. We are not supposed to be shutting doors. Okay. Verse 14.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you eat up widows' houses, and for a show make long prayers. Because of this, you shall receive greater judgment.
Okay. So what the Pharisees were doing was that they cheat widows out of their property. Okay. We're gonna see examples of this. Okay. The widows make themselves bankrupt by putting all their money into the temple treasury, giving all their money to the Pharisees. They were supposed to be tending to the widows, not stealing from the widows. Verse 15.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you go about the land and the sea to win one convert, and when he is won, you make him a son of him twofold more than yourself.
Okay, when I was reading this, it kind of reminds me of like religious organizations, religion in the world. What do you mean? Aren't they bringing this good news? Aren't they reading the Bible to people? Aren't they baptizing people? Aren't they saying things in Jesus' name? Okay. So you have Pharisees or religious leaders. Okay. Um, they go out into the lands. They go travel across the sea into other lands. Correct. Go on all these mission trips. Is that correct? Right? Okay, because you go about the land and the sea to win one convert. And when he is one, you make him a son of Gehenna, twofold more than yourselves. You know, that was interesting to me when I saw that. Twofold more than yourselves. How do you make someone even worse than yourselves after you gain them? I mean, it's obviously Yahusha. This is not a good thing that's happening. This is what's happening today. Okay, so now you take somebody without knowledge, without biblical knowledge, okay, and you start teaching them the way of religion and added doctrine. You doctrinize them with your religion, and now this is all they know. Now they're like so rooted in it, like that is truth for them. You know, so like in that sense, yeah, it could be twofold worse because now they're so programmed in a way when you as the one giving it giving the message, whatever message you're giving, you as the one should know better. You have greater responsibility. Okay? But now they're worse. I mean, this is Yahushua prophesying about that. Keep it open to keep it open to 23. Let me just have you read from 23. Okay, but 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1 says, "But the Spirit distinctly says that in latter times some shall fall away from the belief." Some shall fall away. Pharisees, religious leaders. Some shall fall away from the belief. Okay, we even seen in our study maybe a month or so ago, that Pharisees were getting immersed. And then it says some will fall away from the belief. Okay, Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Paying attention to misleading spirits and teachings of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having been branded on their own conscience. So, my question is, could these Pharisees, could these religious leaders be going about across the land and the sea teaching doctrines of demons? That's what the word's saying, is it not? Okay? Speaking hypocrisy, did not Yahushua call the Pharisees hypocrites? The religious leaders, hypocrites, having been branded on their own conscience. Matthew chapter 23, verse 16. Lenny? 16.
Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the dwelling place, it does not matter. But whoever swears by the gold of the dwelling place is bound by oath.
Okay. Woe to you, blind guides. Okay. Who say, right? Let's put it this way. The dwelling place doesn't matter. Okay. The gold is what matters. To the Pharisees, the gold means the most. The gold is what's set apart. They're neglecting that the dwelling place isn't what's setting this thing apart. Verse 17.
Fools and blind, for which is greater, the gold or the dwelling place that sets the gold apart?
So gold is just gold. It's nothing. I mean, yeah, there's value to gold, but like, I mean, it's gold. You got a piece of gold here, a piece of gold here. They're the same gold. They can come from different areas, whatever, but it's gold. But what actually sets the gold apart? Say it. The dwelling place. Okay? The dwelling place is what sets the gold apart. But to the Pharisees, they just want the gold. You need the gold. Don't worry about the dwelling place. Okay? Fools and blind, for which is greater the gold of the dwelling place that sets the gold apart. Says Yahushua's teachings. Verse 18, Lenny.
And whoever swears by the slaughter place, it does not matter. But whoever swears by the gift of his life is bound by oath.
So this is the Pharisees' way of thinking. This is their perception. Whoever swears by the slaughter place, it does not matter. But whoever swears by the gift that is on it is bound by oath. So they're like, no, the slaughter place doesn't matter, but your gifts, keep bringing your gifts. Your gifts are what's important. Yeah? Your gifts, they matter. Okay? Give all the gold and the gifts. In the Pharisees' eyes, to the religious leaders' eyes, this is what matters most. Verse 19.
Fools and blind, for which is greater the gift of the slaughter place that sets the gift apart? He then who swears by the slaughter place swears by it and by all.
Okay? So what do you think is greater? The slaughter place or the gift? The dwelling place of the gold. Continue reading, 21 through 23.
And he who swears by the dwelling place swears by it, and by him who is dwelling in it. And he who swears by the heaven swears by the throne of Elohim, and by him who is sitting upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you tithe the mint and the ants and the cumin, and having neglected the withering matters of the Torah, weightier matters of the Torah, the right ruling and the compassion and the belief, these need to have been done without neglecting the others.
Okay, so when your friend or your family member says, oh, the Torah is abolished, this is another great scripture to bring up. It says, okay, yes, you can do that. It's in Torah. But these have to be done without neglecting the weightier matters of the Torah, the right ruling. the compassion, and the belief. These have to be done without neglecting the others. So, what are the weightier matters of the Torah? Yeshua is explaining to them these guys have no heart, they have no compassion, okay? They ain't following right ruling because they're making up their own laws and their own rules, all right? And they don't have the belief. Let me just turn really quick um, to Luke. Let's turn to really quick to Luke chapter 11, verse 43. Oh, sorry, not 43. Luke 11. Sorry, I'm looking for it right now. But basically, the way Luke puts it, we're gonna read it later. Basically, Luke puts it this way that it's the compassion and it's also the love. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that out. We're gonna get there later. Um, let's continue in Matthew though. Matthew chapter 23. No, not yet. Okay. So exactly why he doesn't contradict himself. Matthew 5:17 says, "Do not think I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away, one word or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done." Okay? So Yahushua is not contradicting himself. He's clear that the Torah still applies. Okay, read 24. Blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. Okay, that's it. Okay. So blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. This kind of like, okay, straining out a gnat, swallowing a camel. What does that mean? All right. So Yahushua was accusing them of taking great pains, like straining out gnats. I had to look into it. When they're drinking water, sometimes you get little insects or whatever, so they need to strain things out to strain the bugs out. Okay, so this is what he's referring to, straining gnats or straining out the tiniest little thing. Okay, to avoid offense in minor things. Okay, so again, Yahushua accusing them of taking great pains, straining out gnats to avoid offense in minor things of little importance, while tolerating or committing great sins, which is swallowing camels. Okay, so they're so focused on, we're looking at, yes, Yahushua did say there's weightier parts and weightier matters of the Torah. There are, okay? But these guys, they like to focus on the little tiny things. They like to strain out the little things and making sure all their T's are crossed, and they dot their I's and just extremely pharisaical, Yahushua is saying they're doing all of this, but and at the same time, they're committing a great sin by neglecting the weightier parts of the Torah. So what's the point? It's like, what's the point of you getting so detailed in these little parts when over here, this big space, you're screwing up and you're messing up? What's the point? I mean, just like how I said, a couple months ago, or what, like, what's the point of wearing seats and you don't obey the commands? What's the point of worshiping on Shabbat and you don't obey the commands? What's the point of being circumcised and you don't obey the commands? There's no point. Okay? We're going to get into the part where he says that they're doing all this for show. Okay? We're not trying to be people who just act like they're clean on the outside, right? Okay? So they sometimes, like I was thinking about it, they focus on the minor parts of the law and they commit greater sin. They do these details to seem as if they're more set apart. Some people may do that. They're like, oh, I do this, so that means I'm more set apart now. Okay, and that's what they're doing. Okay, it makes them look more righteous. It makes them look and seem like they're above everyone else. Right? There are people in the community who like to major in the minors. Yeah, I'm sure we all have experience of that. Okay. Who are Nazis on the minors. And then you look at their lifestyle and everything else, and you look at how they talk to their brother and sister, and you look at the fruit that they're bearing. Like, okay, you're good at doing all of that, but what about these things? It's just doesn't make sense. So we don't want to be the type of people like this that Yahusha is exposing, correct? So what's the point of straining out gnats when you swallow camels? Okay. 25.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness.
So stop trying to look all pretty and pure on the outside. Stop being fakes while you're disgusting. It's not being people. It's not being people that fake the funk. Okay? It's something interesting too. Kind of just dawned on me as just meditating on the scripture. This is also telling us something else as well. Sometimes, okay, we're looking at these Pharisees. He's calling them dirty on the inside, they're clean on the outside, and they look clean on the outside. Inside is filled with filth. Okay, if you're filled with filth on the inside, how are they looking so pretty on the outside? Question, right? Okay. Another thing too is the Pharisees, they keep Torah, correct? We all agree that they're keeping Torah, but they also eat clean. Would we agree that Pharisees probably ate clean? Okay. Okay. So if they're eating clean, okay, they observe the food laws, right? How come outside is not? It's they're looking clean, they're eating clean, but still their insides is filthy because their heart is filthy. They don't have a clean heart. You know what I'm saying? They lack the compassion. They lack the weightier matters. So yes, you could be eating clean, but still be dirty. 26.
Blind Pharisees, clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside of them becomes clean too.
Okay. Continue on. So looking at clean, right? We're talking about clean heart. That's what we need. We need a clean heart. Psalms 51 verse 9 really quick says, hide your face from my sins and blot out all my crookedness. Create in me a clean heart. King David says, create in me a clean heart. Psalms 51 verse 9 and 10. Okay? O Elohim, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Okay, why is King David saying this? Because look at what he did in his past. He's repented. He's recognizing, he's putting it out there. Yeah, yes, I made a mistake. I need you to clean me. I need you to renew my spirit. Okay? Create in me a clean heart. Verse 11. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your set apart spirit from me. I mean, kind of clear example here. We talked about once saved, always saved doctrine. Like even King David knows that God's spirit can move him. He's begging that not to happen. Yeah. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your set apart spirit from me. Psalm 73, Psalms chapter 73, verse 1. Elohim is truly good to Yashrael, to those whose heart is clean. Okay? Everything we do it, we must be doing it with a clean heart. Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the clean in heart, because they shall see Elohim. Let's turn to 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. Lenny, if you could read that for us. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5 through 11.
Now, the goal of this command is love from a clean heart, from a good conscience, and a sincere belief.
Read down to verse 11.
Which some, having missed the goal, turn aside to the senseless talk, wishing to be teachers of Torah, understanding neither what they say, nor consider concerning what they strongly affirm. And we know that the Torah is good if one uses it legitimately, knowing this, that the Torah is not laid down for the righteous being, but for the lawless and unruly, for the wicked and for sinners, for the wrongdoers and profane, for those who kill fathers or mothers or murderers, for those who whore or sodomites, for kidnappers, for liars, for perjurers, and for whatever else that is contrary to sound teaching. According to this, which was entrusted to me.
Okay, so some people, all right, I want to bring this scripture out because it says, now the goal of this command is love from a clean heart. So love from a clean heart, a good conscience, and a sincere belief. And these are the things that the Pharisees were lacking. Yeah? It was interesting in verse 9, knowing this, but that the Torah is not laid down for a righteous being. If you're practicing righteousness, you study the Torah and you're walking in a way like pretty good. Okay? The Torah is here to expose us of our sin. First Peter chapter 1, verse 22. That now that we have cleansed your lives in obeying the truth through the Spirit to unfinished brotherly love, love one another fervently with a clean heart. Love one another fervently with a clean heart. Love one another to become better servants of one another. What happens? It operates better. Love one another with a clean heart. Having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible through the living word of Elohim, which remains forever. Because all flesh is as grass, and all the esteem of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers, and the flowers falls away. But the word of Elohim remains forever. This is the word announced as good news to you. So all of Yah's words are good news. Another term for good news that religion uses is gospels. Okay? It's all good. Let's turn back to Matthew chapter 23, verse 27. So you too are operating in the inside of the so let's stop here. So I mean, we always got to be examining ourselves. You know, Scripture tells us to examine ourselves daily. You know, so check in that you're not acting in this type of way. Yeah. Continue. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the mountains of monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have taken part with them in the blood of the prophets. Thus you bear witness against yourself that you are sons of those who killed the prophets. Okay, so what is Yahushua saying here? He's telling the Pharisees and the scribes that you are the sons of the fathers that murdered the prophets. And you go and decorate their monuments and their tombs when you're the ones that did the murdering. Your fathers are the ones that did the murdering. Okay? Verse 32. And you fill up the measure of your fathers. Serpents, blood of adders, how would you escape the judgment of Gehenna? Because of this, see, I send you prophets and wise men, and scribes of scripture. Some of them you shall kill and impale, and some of them you shall flog, and you shall persecute themselves. Okay, so what the Pharisees were doing, it sound very similar to what the children of Yashrael did to all the prophets that we've been reading about. Doesn't it sound exactly the same? Okay. Nothing new. Nothing new under the sun. Continue. So that on you shall come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous judges of all people, to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the dwelling place and the slaughter place. Truly, I say to you, this shall come in this generation. Yerushalayim. Okay, so let's turn to Luke chapter 6, verse 24. Luke 6:24 reads, but woe to you who are rich, because you are receiving your comfort. Okay, what did we read this past Bible study, scripture study, in Ezekiel 7:19 says, they throw their silver into the streets and their gold becomes as filth. Their silver and their gold is unable to deliver them in the day of wrath of Yahuwah. Okay, that's Ezekiel verse 19. Yeah. So Yahushua is saying, woe to you who are rich, because you are receiving comfort. Verse 25, woe to you who have been filled, because you shall hunger. So I see that as woe to the greedy, people who are greedy. Woe to you who are laughing now, because you shall mourn and weep. Those of you who are in the world, living it all, practicing wickedness and sin, thinking all is good, but in the end, these people will be mourning and weeping. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for thus their fathers did to the false prophets. Let's turn to Luke chapter 11, verse 37. Okay, so we're gonna so this is the testimony of Luke, okay, um, and the information that he gathered about Messiah, Yahushua, okay, and just his outlook on it. Not his outlook, but the information that he received and that outlook on it. Okay, because Luke never met Messiah. Okay, but I've learned that all of his stories, all of his writings came from talking to people who have met him. Okay, so that's why you see Matthew, Mark kind of resemble each other, and then you see Luke a little bit different here and there. You see the same stories, but a little bit of a different take and a different angle, different perspective is what you're seeing. Okay. All right, Luke 11:37. Um, Lenny.
And as he spoke, a certain Pharisee asked him to dine with him. So he went and sat down to eat.
Okay, so just laying it out so that we're not getting too ahead of ourselves. He is sitting with the Pharisee, a Pharisee, or maybe a few Pharisees. Okay, and and as he spoke, a certain Pharisee asked him to dine with him. So he's being invited to sit down with one of the Pharisees. Okay, and he went in and sat down to eat. Okay, we're gonna get a bigger picture moving forward. Okay, Lenny.
And when the Pharisee saw it, he marveled that he did not first wash before dinner.
Okay, so what are we seeing here? He marveled because he didn't wash. There was a rule. Remember back in Matthew chapter, I think 15, it's talking about, oh, your apostles, they don't wash their hands before they eat bread. So you're marveling because they have set rules and guidelines on what you must do before you eat. Okay, continue.
And the master said to him, now, you Pharisee, make the outside of the cup and dish clean, but your inward part is filled with greed and wickedness.
Continue.
Mindless one, did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But give in kindness of that which is within. See, all are turned to you. But woe to you, Pharisees, because you tithe the mint and the rue and every plant, and ask by the right ruling and the love of Elohim.
Okay, stop there. Stop right there. Okay, so this is the scripture I was referring to on Luke's account when he's in Matthew. We talked about the weightier matters of right ruling, compassion, and belief. Um, and here in the book of Luke, it's saying the right ruling and the love of Elohim. That's what I wanted to bring out. Let me continue.
These you should have done without leaving the others undone. Woe to you, Pharisees, because you love the best seats in the congregations and the greetings in the marketplaces. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you are like the unseen tombs, and the men walking over them do not know. And one of those learned in the Torah, answering, said to him, Teacher, when you say this, you insult us too.
Okay, so they was feeling a type of way, right? Feeling a type of way, like, when somebody's giving you truth, you're seeing that. Are we part of these people that you're talking about? I mean, he's recognizing that he sits in that camp. You're insulting us by telling us this. Benny?
And he said, Woe to you also, you learn in the Torah, because you load men with burdens hard to bear, and you yourself do not touch the burdens with one of your fingers.
Okay. So he's having this conversation with the Pharisees. Are they not Yashrael? So can we also see this as him bringing the truth to them? He's sitting with the Pharisees having dinner, telling them, woe to you guys. Do you not think that he's also giving them an opportunity to examine themselves, to come out and walk with Yahushua? Right? Let me continue.
Woe to you, because you build the tombs of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. But you bear witness that you approve of the works of your fathers, because they indeed killed them, and you build their tombs. And because of this, the wisdom of Elohim said, I shall send them prophets and emissaries, and some of them they shall kill and persecute, so that the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world shall be required of this generation. From the blood of Hebel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the slaughter place and the dwelling place. Yes, I say to you, it shall be required of this generation. Woe to you, learned in the Torah, because you took away the key of the knowledge. You did not enter in yourself, and those who were entering in you hindered.
Okay? Hold on a minute. Okay? Woe to you, learned in the Torah. I mean, some of us have experienced this. Some people who came in who very extremely knowledge, and sometimes with all that knowledge, what is the example that Yahushua is bringing out? Saying, woe to you learned in the Torah. Okay, you know the Torah. That's good. I mean, it's good that you know the Torah. It's awesome. Because you took away, but look, because you took away the key of knowledge, you did not enter in yourselves, and those who are entering in you hindered. Okay? Sometimes people so learned in the Torah, they don't know where to start with someone. Sometimes people want you to know everything all at once, not remembering that people need the milk first. Right? Continue.
And as he was saying this to them, the scribes and the Pharisees began to oppose him fiercely and to draw him out by his subjects, watching him and seeking to catch him in whatever he says, so as to accuse him.
Okay, so that's gonna basically conclude our study today. We're gonna do just like how we did last week. We're gonna get into our groups. The guys with the guys, the ladies with the ladies. We're gonna have some discussion. But before we get to that discussion, anybody have any shares that you want to share? What you learned, what you liked about today's study before we get into our groups. Benny, who's that? Okay. Much. Okay. No, I love that part. Just from Luke 11:52. Um,
11:52 in Matthew 5:19. Those two kind of correlate and go together because, and that's what I love about 5:19, where he's talking about. Let me just get it real fast. Whoever then breaks these least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be least in the kingdom of heavens. But whoever does teach them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of the heavens. Right. And so ultimately I think that's what that one really nails that argument home, is that they're running around, they're doing all these things in his name, they don't know his name, they're not teaching his laws, they're not, you know what I mean, all these things that are important, they're leaving out. Right, and then they're wearing tzitzis, they're circumcising themselves, they're doing all this stuff that, oh yeah, it looks like on the outside, oh yeah, they're doing what they're doing, and it's the same as all these churches, or they're gathering all this money, they're going doing missionary service. Literally, they're doing this in the name of the devil. Like, it's so powerful, right? And they don't even know that that's what they're doing, right? But they're deceiving, they're making people, just like you read the scripture earlier, because he's making them, us and others, accountable twofold. Right, because now it's even harder for the Most High to reach us because we believe in His nonsense. Right, and so that's why I think it's powerful, and I love how you formulated this I would say argument, because that's what we're doing. Right, we present in truth. We're working through the nonsense, and that's how we're getting through those twofold, belief systems, because we got to make the case. And so I appreciate you, brother. And I'm really thank you for your sharing. Anybody else want to share?
I love in, which one was it? I believe it was 23 and 15. Where he was talking about how he made him twofold, the child of the devil. But actually, that wasn't the one. It was the one about the faith judgment in Matthew 23 and to the further down, it's 22. Where it says 23 and 22, where it says, and if 23 and 23. Woe unto you, scribe and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay a tithe of mint and amiss and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the Torah, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. And I feel like that goes perfect with what he was saying in Luke at the dinner with them, because he says that you have taken away the key, and the whole key behind it was compassion, was the judgment, was the faith, was the mercy, because it's like they had all these other things in place, but it's like they didn't have that right there, and that's like the battery source behind Torah. You can't have Torah without those four fundamental things: compassion, mercy, judgment, and faith. So I think that was powerful.
Anybody else want to share? He had John. Yeah, he's saying he had the key, but you didn't enter the door. So you left all the people that you were leading outside the door. Yeah. Anybody else?
Big.
I was just gonna say, like, when you're reading it, I think before, when I used to read all of this about somebody learning the Torah, meaning that it was representing Torah, and that's what was confusing, because it's like, so you do it or you don't, right? I mean, because of my teaching. I mean, all of this just makes sense. It's like the Pharisees were teaching wrong, so now when you go and read other things, or you go, try to learn from them, it's like so confusing. But what I mean is, when I'm reading Luke and you're talking about a Pharisee and you compare them to somebody who's learned in the Torah, Yahushua is actually saying you're not representing Torah correctly. So prior, when I used to read this, it meant like, my understanding was, see, look, the Pharisees are teaching Torah, and so that makes Torah wrong, right? But if you actually read it word, like line by line, and continue reading, they are not good representations of the Torah and the whole Torah. And it's like little things like how when Jeremiah was reading, it says the right ruling and the compassion and the belief, these need to have been done without neglecting the others. So what does that say? It's saying, yes, that part you're doing does matter, but it doesn't matter if your heart's not right. So right there, it's confirmation that, you know, the Torah is important. Everything about it is important, but it doesn't, like how you're emphasizing on the whole message today, it doesn't matter if the bigger things, like the small things do matter, but it doesn't matter if the big things aren't taken care of first. There's an order of operation. Like, you know, we're over here building our house. It doesn't matter what size the windows are, where we put the doors, or like where the lights are, if the foundation's not even strong. So it's like, but those things matter eventually? Yes. And then even in Luke 11:42, he says, "These you should have done without leaving the others undone." So he's telling them again, like, yes, these things, but you cannot leave the other ones undone. And even when I'm just highlighting one of the times where it says, like, "Woe to you also, you learned in the Torah, because you load men burdens hard to bear, and you yourselves do not touch the burden." So it's like it was the Pharisees putting the burden on people before me and my understanding. If I were to read that, I'm like, look, people who teach Torah, this is what you guys are doing. You're putting burden with the Torah. But that's not like, but then when you read in the Old Testament, I mean, the word all throughout, the Torah is not burdensome. It's somebody who misrepresents the Torah is the burden. So when it comes to the washing the hands, like those, I feel like every time I'm reading it, these details really, really matter, because if somebody were to bring that up to me before, I would have been like, oh yeah, this whole book is confusing. It sounds like Pharisees are representing Torah correctly, but they're not, and that's what Yahusha came to correct. And everything being done with love, and even if you are correct about the nitpicking of all these little things, you can be correct about that part, but if it's not done in love, then it doesn't matter. And what is he saying? You're just a banging gong. So it's interesting how all of this comes full circle, like all the time.
Okay, so let's break out into our groups for about 15-20 minutes and discuss what we learned today. Let's continue to discuss, and we'll close. Okay.